Yeah, well, hello everybody. Welcome to our coffee talk today. I'm Henrike von Platen and I'm talking with my friend.
Margrét Bjarnadóttir.
So great to see you. You have a very interesting and moving background today. And I want to know where you are. I know it's World at Work, but where are you exactly? What's the topic? And what are your best insights of these days?
Yeah, sure. I hope the background noise isn't too bad. So we were just wrapping up the Workplace Equity Forum. So it's an event put on by World at Work. And I'm in Austin, Texas, of all places. I haven't seen much except the inside of this hotel and the
Well,
strip mall outside. But it has been super interesting 3 days, actually. So it's been fun.
that's good. That's good. And did you hear anything that we haven't heard before yet? Or is it more like focusing on topics that we know, but they are getting stronger? Or what is it like?
Yeah, interesting. So interesting. Yeah, so there was a lot of reoccurring themes, right? So it's a lot of the things that we've been talking about in this coffee talks over months, quarters, years, right? So the importance of doing pay equity analysis. Interestingly, there was a lot of conversation about tainted variables. So how, the data that we put into this analysis, how will that affect your pay equity analysis? But then I would say, when I think about, okay, what was like the new theme, like what came up, my sense is, and maybe exaggerating a tiny bit, but my sense is by now we should all be doing pay equity analysis, right? We should all be we have that checkbox checked. We are paying equal for whether we are focusing on equal pay for equal work or equal pay for work of equal value. That's the law of the land that should be done, right? And the focus here, and I think the emphasis was really about how do we start to address the absolute pay gap or the median pay gap, and how does that interlink with our DEI efforts, right? So when you think about the DEI efforts, there was a lot of discussion about what are meaningful DEI efforts, how do we measure them, and thinking about it, obviously, one measure is participation across our pay structure, right?
Yep.
And then that should then directly be measurable in our absolute pay gap. So thinking about DEI and kind of in the context of pay equity was something kind of that was a reoccurring theme, I would say, throughout the 3 days.
I think that's great because that puts the world at work in the situation where we have always been thinking about. I'm just thinking in my head about our journey in the Universal Fair Pay Check, where the first German company with this entry just got to the middle, to the developer stage. And when you have to sort of close your adjusted gap and then get to closing the unadjusted, like first the 1, then the 10% unadjusted, it's exactly that journey that the company needs to do. I don't see thousands of developers yet, but if World at Work is there, I would expect us to really sort of lift off and see companies taking that journey. Because I remember also today, just a couple of hours ago, I was attending a different event in Hamburg, but not in Hamburg, but online. And there the companies were telling their stories as well, and they are working on these topics, but they are working on them now because they have done analysis and then they can see what they need to do. So it's great. Yeah, wonderful. Is there any other topic, or is that sort of the main, or would you add a second one, because we're like halfway through our time and could add another topic?
Yeah, I mean, I also think the second reoccurring new theme, we can call it a new theme even though it's an old theme, is centered around pay transparency. So there's a lot of discussion about the new Colorado law, the new California law, and we know the EU transparency. So there was a lot of conversations around how do we get ready, and there was a lot of interesting conversation about what might happen. So if we focus on kind of the discussions around how will we get ready, it was, the conversations always started with, okay, do we know our job architecture, right? Do we know why we pay what we pay? How should we, if we are going external with our salary ranges for our jobs, have we cleaned up our act internally? Can we explain to our employees why they're getting paid what they're getting paid. If they're in a salary band and they're towards the bottom, can we have a conversation with them about why are you exactly there but not somewhere else, right? And in order to be transparent externally, you have to be ready to have that one-on-one conversations with your employees. So there was a lot of conversations centered around how do we get ourselves ready, what is the work that needs to happen. And even I think one of the last conversations today, where it was actually, there was somebody describing that has gone through this and then is now ready, and 3 times they mentioned it was a lot of work. So when we think about the EU directive and that is coming, I think companies will have to start thinking about, okay, are we ready? And if not, what are the key steps? You know, defining their job structure, their job architecture, understanding, you know, where they want to position themselves, clarify their pay policies, and then be ready to go transparent, at least with their salary ranges. Yeah.
I really like this. I mean, you know me for some time now, and you know that I've always been saying we need to talk more about money. And you're now saying exactly these things. And in the event I was today, it's funny, it completely interlinks. Edenred, one of the 4 companies, she was like saying, okay, we have the issue in Germany that people talk more and more about money, even our employees, which is a bit weird, but well, so it's happening. So they have to be prepared, exactly what you said, to be able to have the conversations on why they get what they get, wherever they are inside the salary range. And they are sort of prepared for that, and other companies need to prepare too. And I think it's really good that this is happening exactly now. Well, 10 years earlier wouldn't have been bad either, but anyhow, that's happening now. Because if companies get ready for this before EU directives and further transparency laws come into act, it's going to be a lot less work, or the work might be the same, but it will be less stressful than the moment the act is there, and then you have a certain definite time frame, and you will really, out of you cannot say it in the way you want to do it. You can't put your own timeline to it, and now you still can. So cool topics, I must say.
I mean, I think we so often get the questions, how do I get started, when do I get started? Start diagnosing the situation, right? What needs to happen in order to be able to publish this information?
Exactly. Analyze your situation, develop your measures, and lead by example. Somewhere I've heard that.
And I would even say one other interesting kind of observation. There was a lot of discussion on this topic around, okay, if we have to get ready to have these conversations with our employees, we need to also train our managers. So how are we going to think about the fact that we're going, let's call it going transparent, right? You know, how are we going to enable our managers to have those conversations? What do they need to understand, and how are we going to roll that out? So I will leave that as a last thought on this topic.
That's a great last thought, because time's up.
Yep.
And now everybody can think about this question and get ready for it. Thank you very much, Margrét. It was great, and enjoy Austin.
Thank you. I might get out of this hotel.
Please do.
All right.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.